movie fans, welcome to Cold and Trash Horror Movie Grinding Podcast. I am your host, Ian. This is the show in which we grind on the absolute worst horror and sci-fi movies we can find and make fun of just how bad they are, as well as praise the good cult classics that have been lost throughout time. Now get ready, because we're about to dive real deep inside of Hollywood's dumpster in search of the good, the so bad it's good, and the fucking ugly. Now put on your seatbelt, grab a beer or two, and enjoy the show. Hey, what up, everybody? It's Ian again. This is Cold and Trash Horror Movie Grind, and today we're doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, The Next Generation. So this came out in 1994, directed by Kim Henkel, who actually I just found out just now he actually wrote the original screenplay to the very first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and starring actually crazy enough Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. Very early roles for the two of them, and kind of a bizarre role for both of them, I guess you could say. It got 3.3 stars. It is on IMDb. It is like the least popular episode or movie in the Texas Chainsaw franchise, and we're going to find out today. I kind of disagree. Now, if you saw last week's episode, we did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is definitely a lot more popular and cult fan base. Not so much on the mainstream, but definitely in the cult fan base. It's definitely way up there. It's one of my favorite cult films. So now we're going to go on to we're skipping 3 and we're going on to 4. Also, if you saw the last episode, we said that the next one was going to be House of 1,000 Corpses, and that's still planned, but a couple of people who were going to join for that ended up not able to do it today. So I got with one of the other guests, and we decided to keep on Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing while that's going. So, and then next week we'll go back to House of 1,000 Corpses. And speaking of which, my new guest today, coming on this show for the first time, but not new to Infamous Horror, the YouTube channel for this show. There's another show called Let's Scream, and I have one of the hosts of that show right here. Maude, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. How you doing?
Very good, very good. It's freezing cold in Montreal right now, but I'm doing good. I got to stay inside today watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4,
Nice.
so it's good. I can't complain.
You know, I gotta say, I'm actually in Texas myself. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. It's cold here, but you'd probably think I'm a wimp. It's like 30 degrees.
Oh yeah, I
Fahrenheit,
think
that is, but
I'm bad with the Fahrenheit thing, but I'm pretty sure it's close to like 0 Fahrenheit
yeah.
for you. Like, so
So
for us,
that's
it's in the minuses, like,
yeah. So that's like probably like normal for you. You're probably like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, that sounds 30 sounds kind of nice right now. I would take it.
Yeah, it's miserable here because it's rainy and it's windy.
Mm-hmm.
That usually anytime it gets this cold, it's always you get the full package. So it's not like if it was sunny, I'd be fine with it. But
Yeah,
it's pretty miserable. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, you're in Let's Scream.
yes.
Which looks a lot like this.
Oh, wow. We're gonna confuse if people are editing. They're gonna be like, "Oh no, the branding! What's going on?"
Right. Yeah. So I guess hopefully there's people who are familiar with both shows. But for those who aren't, I guess why don't you go ahead and say pretty much what your show's like, and I guess how you got involved in Infamous Horror and like everything.
Yeah. Well, I knew Steve, and Martin, who are two of the guys who started the project of having a network of podcasts. And then one day Steve approached me. Like, I was a guest on another one of their shows that they were doing, and I really liked the experience. And he approached me and he asked me, he's like, well, would you potentially be interested? Well, first he asked me, do you know that many podcasts with like, that are led by women, about horror films? I'm like, well, I know a few, but I can name a few, but nothing that like, just jumps out at me as being like, oh, like, this one is like, stands out, because they're all the ones I know, they have very specific theme, so I couldn't think of one that was more general, like, which there's nothing wrong with this. Like, it's really cool, but it's just like the teams that they address, they tend to be very niche and very specific. And then he's like, well, potentially, would you be interested in doing like a more general, like, women, like, in horror podcast? And I'm like, oh, sure. I mean, I did, full disclosure, I did my master's thesis on women horror filmmakers. So I've always kind of like dabble in that, and I'm a filmmaker myself, making horror films. So
Okay.
I've always been kind of like involved in that whole like women in horror sphere. But like I told Steve, I'm like, what was really important for me, I was like, okay, let's do this, but let's keep it general. Let's try to like profile people, but let's not make it be just about just women, so this is why we try to, well, I say we because I have a lovely co-host, Ali Chappell.
Yes, she was the one who was supposed to join us today, but
she will join us for a future future
the next episode
podcast about
we'll get her one way or another. She's not getting out this easy.
So that's it. I mean, I guess we try to kind of keep it like we want to showcase like women who work within the genre, like doing a variety of things. Like so far we've had filmmakers, but we have other guests lined up who are authors, like people who are like academics, including someone who does a lot of like commentary tracks on Blu-rays and DVDs, like collector edition type thing. So like just try to kind of like get people's like get these interesting discussions, basically, that's not just about women in horror. It's more like a woman's perspective of like horror, like and like just try to kind of like look at these different topics and like, okay, so what do we think about them, like and challenge them. Last podcast, Ali and we just did kind of like a bit of a deep dive on The Final Girl, which is such an iconic.
I watched that one. That one was pretty fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. So it's kind of like we're we try to dabble into a whole bunch of like different topics, like but taking a different look at like what like women in horror is and what women within horror are doing. So,
okay. Yeah, I've like I said, I've seen your episodes, and it's pretty cool. I enjoy it. I think that you got a good thing going. It's real, just kind of like it's got a format and everything, and but it's also real loose, and it's pretty much just a couple people having a conversation, really.
We always kind of have this vision of like, it's kind of like that idea. It's like we just want our podcast to kind of feel like a fun slumber party,
right.
And then we just like invite people and be like, let's just chat about a whole bunch of different things that we all like horror. Let's just talk about what we like the most, and let's just like have fun together and like have a drink and like just talk about all these things, So.
So I guess in that episode of I guess Final Girls, let me ask you. I mean, you did talk about it, so really I already know. But for the sake of this episode of the conversation, who's some of your favorite girls or scream queens or what have you?
Okay, well, first I gotta say, Scream Queens and Final Girls, they often get convoluted, but I'm a very strong fighter to like separate the two because I feel they're very distinct.
For sure.
Sorry.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. In terms of Final Girls, I mean, I really like the more modern, I guess, Final Girls, and like for everyone, like invite you to check out the episode if you're interested in the topic. I really liked like films like You're Next or like Ready or Not, which has like they feature a little bit more active and proactive Final Girl. Not that the classic ones were not, it's just like there's a lot of like running and being just terrified, like like, and then fighting while being scared. And I know this is such a classic vision of it. But I'm really digging like the reinvention right now, where it's like, okay, there's a shotgun, I'm grabbing it and I'm going, like, so I'm really digging those. But when we look at the classic, like obviously, like Ripley from Alien.
Yeah, that's the one that
Yeah,
this really comes up a
that's like
lot.
the queen. That's the queen
And
of
like
the
Sarah
final
Connor.
girls. Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah Connor is one of my favorites. I actually, like I said, the last episode was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which have you seen the second one?
I've seen it, but so long ago. So that's it.
Okay.
But I've seen it so long ago, and I've been wanting to revisit it because I've read so many articles about the female character, like Stretch, I think, like if
Yeah,
I remember
Stretch.
correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
she's
yeah,
definitely one of my favorites for sure
yeah.
because like she's kind and I talked about this during that episode. What I like about her is that she's not just I mean, which you talked a lot about in your episode of how the final girl in a lot of movies she follows these certain guidelines
Hmm.
of like she's like kind of the goody two shoes kind of
Yeah,
and for some reason she's like kind of nerdy or
yeah.
like a virgin or something like that
Yeah,
and
she follows the proper rules and
yeah
she's not too
exactly.
disruptive and she doesn't speak up and she's the one who's like,
Hmm.
"Oh no, we shouldn't be doing this." Like, so
Right. So Stretch, she's not like that at all. I mean, she's not the opposite either. She's just a woman just trying to just do her job as a radio DJ and live her life, and then this thing comes to her.
Mhm,
From both sides, the good guy and the bad guys both come at her,
mhm,
and she's just stuck in this situation, and but she's not like a damsel in distress either. She's
no,
like she actually decides to fight back, and it actually doesn't work out for her either. She gets captured,
mhm,
and she is somewhat doomed, and then I mean like Lefty comes to her to kind of not necessarily kind of to save her. Yeah, he just goes crazy, but he doesn't exactly do that. And she ends up saving herself, and so she's not like damsel in distress or your regular thing that most last girls are, but she's also at the same time she's not overpowered, which I
mhm,
think is kind of another thing that I don't like really is when they're just like super powerful and nobody can stop them because that's not realistic. She's like
no,
very very realistic for me, I
mhm.
think. That's and also same with Renee Zellweger in this movie. I
Yeah,
think she's kind of
exactly.
like that.
For
She
sure.
just like
I have it here.
nice.
Prove
Oh,
that I watched it.
actually, it's funny. I mean, that's good you watched it, but if you hadn't watched it, you would not be the first person to come on this show.
Oh, really?
And pretend I had a guest. I'm not going to say who it was, but I had a guest come on here and totally bullshit his way through the whole episode,
No.
and he did a good job. I will give him credit for that. Like, he was a great bullshitter. But
See,
yeah,
I've done that in college by like bullshitting having read certain text, but like,
uh,
in terms of watching movies, I kind of feel like, oh my God, it'd be so hard to do because like, especially for anyone who knows me, because I tend to sometimes like go into really detail. So if I just
uh,
say too much on the surface, people are all like, oh, there's something wrong there. So,
nice. So again, your show, Let's Scream. What would just I guess real briefly, what do you see coming in the future? Like, what other topics are you gonna cover?
yeah, well, we definitely have like really cool guests right now that we are trying to find room for scheduling. I can't really say
Hmm.
too much,
Yeah, of
but
course.
anyone who's kind of familiar with Ali and I's work, like, it's easy to just kind of go back with like who we've worked with in the past and just
Oh
assume,
yeah,
and like the
that's
people
easy.
that we like have conversation with online and that we are like, photograph with, like, it's a pretty good assumption to know that these people are going to pop up at some point. But in terms of like the more like deep dive topics, because we do want to do more of those episodes like the final girl, we do want to tackle another huge archetype, I guess, from academic like film studies literature, which is the monstrous feminine, which looks at different instances of the female monster in and like what
Hmm.
it represents, in different films, from like the Mother Queen and like Alien to like female psycho killers, like King
Okay.
in Misery and stuff like just like all these different archetypes.
Okay.
And there's also a very interesting book that was written 10 years ago by Kayla Janice, and she's currently writing re-edition of it, like, just expanding it, called House of Psychotic Women, which looks again at the figure of psychotic women in horror and cult cinema. So that's a book that Ali and I, we both really, really loved and have read. And so we definitely want to do maybe a two-parter episode on that, because there's just so much to say about those. And
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
yeah, and obviously just we're always interested in like anyone has like suggestion in terms of like some sort of like specific films or deep dives or archetypes. Like we're all open to just like let's watch something and just go on this deep dive and chat about it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Um and then I guess we'll get more into that when Ali joins us in the next episode. Before we get into the movie, what you said you've worked on some projects yourself. I guess if you'd briefly like talk about that.
Yeah, well, I've been writing and directing independent film for 20 years now. So I've done
Oh, wow.
about 15 short films, one independent feature, and a bunch of other like smaller projects, like, YouTube stuff and things like, anthology segments and stuff like that, collaborative works.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm like, I mean, unfortunately this is not my main job, because it's really hard to have
Yeah.
filmmaking be your day job. But
Right.
I'm working really hard, like I'm constantly like developing new project. And yeah, right now I'm just in development on a few new projects, that hopefully hopefully I'll get to make at some point
Yeah.
over the next
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess anything people should or can check out.
Yeah, if they are interested, a lot of my shorts are available on my website, which is quirkfilms.ca. It's QUIRK films in one word.ca. um
Okay.
it's
I'll
currently
throw that
being
in the
redesigned.
description.
Yeah, exactly. Like the website is currently being redesigned, so bear with me if ever you happen on the page one day and it just like looks like shit. Just give it a few days and it might look
Yeah.
better. So I'm like transferring like web hosting, and at the
Oh,
same
okay.
time, it's been designed literally 10 years ago. Like,
Oh,
in
really?
February 2012. So I'm like, okay, I'm way overdue to review this thing because it's not looking good. So,
All right, cool. Well, yeah, I'll put that in the description, and
cool,
yeah,
perfect.
if people like check that out, and also everybody make sure to, if you haven't already, check out Let's Scream.
Mhm.
It's definitely I thoroughly enjoy watching and
Thank
listening
you.
to it.
Thanks for
So
watching.
yeah. So now Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the fourth one, Next
Yeah.
Generation. I guess when did you first see it?
I first saw this when it came out on VHS.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So I think, like you said, like 94, right? That it was made?
Yeah.
I think I might have seen it like in 96, which would make
Oh, okay.
more sense. But when it came out on home video, um,
Mhm.
because I remember it's actually the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
I mean, I was really
That's
young
quite
at
an
the time.
introduction.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you felt about it at that time?
Um, I okay, so that was during the time of my life where I would try to watch every single horror movie they had in my video store,
Oh,
and it was like a small
really?
like mom and pop shop. And I remember like that was a brand new thing that just came out. I was all like, "Oh, it looks cool." And I remember watching it, I'm kind of like, "Eh." Like, and then
Mm.
cuz it was, to me, it just like it just blended with all the other films of the era, like all of the other like
Oh, yeah, I
horror
can see
films. Like,
that.
it didn't have anything to me that made it stand out at the time. But
Yeah,
again,
I
I
can
was
see that.
fairly young and I was still like in my exploratory phase. Like, I remember from that era a film sticking out, like, really, really like having more of an impact was like Sleepaway Camp, for example. Just because Sleepaway Camp, the reveal is so like I mean, this movie, it's like, oh, okay, there's not really a big reveal. It's just what you expect
Yeah.
the slasher to be.
But there is one that is really corny and stupid.
Exactly. But I mean, at that point, I think I must have been like, what, 13 when I saw it? I just when my, like, right over my head. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's just jump right into that. The Illuminati.
Yeah.
It's so like, I mean, it was great for this show.
Yeah.
But for more mainstream audiences, it's like no wonder people hate it.
Yeah. Well, it's really actually really funny because I was thinking a lot, and I mean, again, like, don't take, like, nobody please take away my horror fan creds, you know. I'm a latecomer to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, franchise.
So am I, actually.
Yeah.
I'm along with you. I actually just saw this movie for the first time last month.
Oh,
So
wow. Well,
maybe not even a month ago.
part of me, I think, like, this is to blame because honestly, that's the first. Okay, and I mean,
Yeah.
also, okay, so growing up, I grew up, like, in a small town where, like, they only had a mom and pop shop, you know. So, for example, they had, like, Halloween 2. They didn't have Halloween 1, you know. So I saw Halloween
Yeah.
2,
Okay. Just
4,
whatever is
5.
available, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they had that, but they didn't have any of the other Texas Chainsaw Massacres, you know. So it's like, and I saw this, and like I had heard Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I watched that, thinking like, oh, I'm gonna see it, but then afterwards I was all like, oh, okay, so it's not that good. And I guess I just won't bother with the other ones,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those movies that, like, you have to see it again
Yeah.
around now, because I've seen a lot of reviews on it, and it's like it's like that. People who saw it a long time ago, and they're like, "Well, this is stupid," and then
I honestly thoroughly enjoyed it today when I
yeah,
rewatched it. You know, I was kind of like, it's one of those. And it's really funny because, I mean, I looked at it recently. One of my friends got rid of all of his physical media, and like he just like gifted me like 2 giant boxes filled with DVDs, and like 90% of it is all horror films. So this is why when you mentioned it, I was all like, I think I have it. Like,
oh yeah, nice.
So, like, I actually went on a deep dive through those boxes, and I pulled it out, and I'm all like, yes, I do. I guess I'm gonna give it another chance because this movie completely was erased from existence in my mind, you know? It's like I saw it, totally have not thought about it ever since the day that I saw it, except for once or twice when I heard it mentioned by like Renée Zellweger, or like in an article about how like they tried to apparently have the movie not like, keep the movie from being released, you know? So anyway.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is that it's Renée Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey who have not done anything like it since then. I mean, it's just so funny casting.
I know. I was like trying to think. Have they both won an Oscar? I have a feeling like they've both at least been nominated.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey did for Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, and I feel like Renée Zellweger also won an Oscar at some point.
I'm not sure about her.
Okay, but she's been nominated though.
Maybe.
Anyways, they're both like very big A-listers right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing.
But I'm a huge fan of the movie Dazed and Confused, so
yes.
All right. But let's actually go into the trailer, and which is right here.
Each of us has known the fear of being alone.
Those
lost in the darkness.
Something different.
I know. Like, I feel like it doesn't do the film justice now.
But there is one fear shrouded in our past, lost in our subconscious.
Oh, that music, that guitar.
That been forgotten.
Yeah, I like that bluesy
A fear so deep it cuts to the bone. The American legend returns
Oh my
to
God.
bring you back to the cutting edge of terror.
Welcome to my world.
All you got, huh? Don't you dare touch me! If you're gonna kill me, then do it!
I gotta say, this is a
Matthew
pretty fun trailer.
McConaughey of A Time to Kill. Renee Zellweger of Jerry Maguire.
Are you having fun?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Next Generation. If looks could kill, he wouldn't need a chainsaw.
Okay, oh my god, yeah. Oh, I have so much to say.
Go ahead.
So much to say about
What you got?
it's really funny. Okay, I want to pull it up. Okay, so my number one beef. The trailer is fun, but it makes it look so much more of a horror film than it actually is, I feel. And like I like that quote on the box, it says a giddy mix of gruesome horror and campy humor. Campy, that's the important word.
Oh yeah, it is campy for sure. I wouldn't say as campy as the second one.
I know.
Yeah.
They should play that up, It feels like they would
Well,
get a different audience.
You know what? Here's what I think probably happened was that it looks like it was definitely filmed seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trailer series, and then nobody took it seriously, and it probably bombed, and people hated it, and they're like, "Well, this is campy." So probably to re-advertise it, they probably put that on there, and they're just like, "Hey, it's campy, fun now, and you should get it for that." And it probably helped.
Yeah, well, I heard that apparently it was even recut. I think it was released first, and then it bombed. And then I feel like I've read somewhere that they successfully, like when I said like Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, they successfully managed to stop the distribution of it or something like that because their career was like picking up. They got shelved for a while. Then from what I've read, they re-edited it and then they re-released it, but of course putting their names like front and center and just really being all like, fuck you, you're just like trying to prevent us from doing this. So
it's like, I mean, every major actor has that one film that they did that they're embarrassed by.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I think that both of them were really good in this movie, especially Matthew McConaughey. Like that was he definitely. I mean, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah, it's very funny because that's my biggest takeaway from the film is that, well, first of all, I feel like he's completely bonkers in that, and that I'm there for it, like 100%. And I was thinking, and I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, that was so much fun. Yeah. And then I realized, I'm like, would it be as much fun if it wasn't Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger being big as they are now? And then I realized, probably not. And probably this is why I'm kind of like flashing back to my teenage self who initially saw it and had no idea who these people were. I was all like, whatever. It feels like, I think any other unknown actor, the film would have been like, forgotten, would not be really remotely as popular.
I mean, it pretty much was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say a majority of the people I know have probably never heard of it, had any idea it exists. I mean, most people, I think, especially mainstream audiences, just know the original one and then the remake after that. That's pretty much, I think that's pretty much not, but yeah, there's 3 other movies that they have cult followings, especially the second one, but yeah, 3 and 4 not so much.
No. But this one, I can understand now having like a bit of a bigger cult following, especially because of those actors, it feels like, just because of the type of like, it's like, I don't know, there are so many moments that are just insane. Like, the fact that like is prosthetic leg as a remote control. I'm like, what is this? Like,
He's got multiple ones too.
Yes, I know.
Like TV remotes. It's like, what? That's so. I mean, it's not even the stupidest part either.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. But they seem to be like, he seems to be having so much fun and he's so intense in that role. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, and I understand why like he was probably embarrassed as hell about this film and being like, I don't want this coming out ever. So
right, yeah,
yeah.
But I'm glad it's there because like I mean it's definitely a hated film for sure. Most people hate it. Like I said, I saw some reviews of it, and there's some videos out there where people rate all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and it's always at the bottom. If it's not the last one, it's the second to last one. I think that's better than some of the more recent ones that have come out. I haven't seen the brand new one that
I
just
haven't
came
seen
out,
it yet. No.
but it's definitely got some bad reviews. So.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, 3.3 on IMDb is pretty
yeah,
low.
but
I'm used to 6-ish, but 3.3 is
see what I like about the I guess pre-2000s movies is the camp factor. I mean that's
Yeah.
what my whole show is about, and like the second one especially, but yeah, that one and this one, and even the first one. Like, I mean, it's not campy, but it's real gritty, and
Mhm.
it's like that. There's so much charm to these movies, where like the post-2000 ones. I mean, the remake and the prequel to it they're really good, but like I don't know, I'm not really as interested in them because they're
No.
so serious. But that's me.
Yeah, well, this one feels like it has all of the markings that you'd expect of that time, and it
Mhm.
just in many ways it reminded me of like Prom Night 4, I mean, and these type of like really like weirdo, like super like far down the line sequels they made in the 90s, where it's like the beginning is like you basically know the story, and I was shocked about how much it follows that narrative that you expect of these type of movies without really like adding that much more different to it other than the characters of that crazy family, and that's where, to me, that's where the originality stems from in that, because the rest
Hmm.
of it. And also, well, I mean, I should say I literally watched House of a Thousand Corpses and that one back to back, so
Oh,
it
really?
very much felt like watching the same movie.
Yeah.
you know
um
some difference, well, I mean, a lot of notable differences, but
yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to do House of a Thousand Corpses next, and I talked about it in the other episode because
Mhm.
it it's such a it seems like a tribute to it,
Mhm.
um especially the second one. So I guess I'm going to invite you to before we do House of Thousand Corpses next, watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
It's a deal. I will do it. I'll get on it.
Because I mean, Bill Moseley is in the second one,
Oh, that's
and
true.
yeah, and he plays Otis in House of Thousand Corpses
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Devil's Rejects and all that, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a very similar character. And two, he plays Chop
Oh,
Top, which is
yeah.
a cult favorite, of course. Um, but yeah, I guess so. Like I said, this is one of the most hated films of the franchise. I guess let's try to figure out why it's so hated and also why it's underrated.
Mm.
I mean, we obviously there's the whole thing like it's campy. Okay, cool.
It's predictable as hell,
Yeah, it's the same old thing.
Yeah.
There's
Even
nothing new.
down to the like, the first girl in the house, she gets thrown into the freezer, or like the box that kind of looks
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
freezer. I'm
it's
like,
yeah, something I was going to say. It seems like this movie itself is a tribute to the first one because there's all those same kills. Yeah, there's that. There's the guy gets hit in the head with the hammer. There's the meat hook that they throw her on. Renee Zellweger jumps through a window, which happens in the first one, and it's like
yeah.
it's all the same stuff again, but
Yeah.
not as good, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what that feels like? It feels like this movie is like a paint by number version of the first one, but then
Yeah.
someone like decided to snort PCP and they're like, let's do this. So that's exactly what this feels like. It
and
feels
and
like,
he did that PCP with Matthew McConaughey.
yeah, exactly, definitely. And they came up with that character high on PCP. That's
Yeah.
exactly what that feels like. It's like, okay, definitely. There's like,
Right.
like the idea was there, and then someone just took it and decided being all like, I'm gonna do something else with that.
And then there's a whole Illuminati thing, which
Mm,
is so just left field.
I know. And with the guy, like, when the guy opens his shirt and he has like all
Yeah.
these scars and then the
Yeah,
the
weird
piercings.
piercings and
I was
stuff.
all like,
Yeah.
wait, is that Hellraiser now? Like, it just feels like there's like so many. It was like it's pulling it in so many directions, and I'm like, it's funny because I'm like, so many of those ideas are so good. It's just like they're good as in like I would love to see them explore further for like pure morbid curiosity. But it's like
Right.
they don't spend enough time. They just kind of throw it there and be like, oh cool, look, idea.
Yeah, he literally just does that and then goes away.
Exactly. I'm like, no, come on. You have something there. Like, just get rid of that whole intro that takes like 20 minutes of them like driving around and getting like, getting into an accident.
And I hate that part too. That part
we
sucks.
know
Like,
this is gonna happen, So.
Like, yeah, the one guy who's just spends 10-15 minutes solid just gaslighting his girlfriend.
Exactly. I was all like, seriously, okay, break down already. Get into an accident or whatever. Like
he plays such a piece of shit. And like she's just like, I caught you having like cheating on me. It was like, no, I wasn't. You're crazy. It's like, I saw you kissing her. It's like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Oh my god.
You're crazy. I can't even hang out with my friends. And he's just gaslighting her. Just
like, and then they keep insulting also like their Renée Zellweger characters. Like, you're so ugly and blah blah.
And then to make it worse is that girl who he's gaslighting, she's like, no, you're right. I am terrible. I suck. And it's just like, okay, so you got no value.
No, I know. Really,
so when she dies, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's all like, okay, cool. They're not the characters I care about, So, yeah.
But no, the Illuminati guy, that actually reminded me of the movie Society. Have you seen that?
No, I want to see this, so it's on my watch list. I've been really wanting to see it for a long time. I think it's on Tubi now, so I think I'm gonna.
Yeah,
get on it.
So many great 80s.
Yeah,
campy cult films are on Tubi. I do plan on doing that at some point, so I'll probably bring you in for that. If
give me a heads up. Then I'll watch.
But yeah, that really reminded me of it. Without giving too much away,
I kind of know what it's
there's
about.
nothing I can say that I've already given too much away.
Yeah. No, but I know overall, like, what the movie's about, and but actually, it's actually very funny because when I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 earlier, another film that popped in my head as being like, I don't know, but there's some correlation there. It came out way after that one, though. It's Martyrs, that movie about that whole. Like, it's the ending when he's like something, I can't remember what he says, but he's like, it was supposed to be like a spiritual experience or something like that. And have you seen that movie Martyrs? It's like a French movie. It came out in the early 2000s. Again, not trying to give away too much of it, but it's definitely an evolution on that idea. So I'm all like, oh, I wonder if the people who did Martyr like saw that and like, took inspiration from it. So
yeah, that definitely has come up a lot in recent films. Rob Zombie did the movie 31. Have you seen
which
that
is one of the ones I haven't seen. So
okay. Again, that's another kind of similar thing. It's I mean, there's not much to give away with that because that they reveal it pretty early in the film, but that movie is a bunch of people who get kidnapped and then they're placed in a place with a bunch of murderers come at them for a bunch of rich, like, kind of Illuminati high class people watch and make bets on like who will die by the end of it. And,
so kind of like a riff on Hostel as well and everything.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, Squid Game, which recently came out, does the same thing. Yeah, so I'd like to say, Society and this Texas Chainsaw Massacre are probably is actually original for that, which I kind of like. So I think another thing that people hate about this movie, which I think is dumb, like I think it's kind of cool, but a lot of complaints I've heard is Leatherface is dressed as a woman in this one.
I know that. Honestly, I was totally going to talk about this, and there's a total Buffalo Bill moment.
I know.
I was like, oh my god, what is this? And I was like singing the song in my head, from like it's like almost a shot for shot sequence of like that reveal of Buffalo Bill when like he's getting ready.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, would you fuck me?
Yeah, that part. Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the thing that I'm annoyed by is that Silence of the Lambs, good. Nobody has a problem with it. It's
No.
great. It's fantastic. Um, what else? There's the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface dresses like a woman in that one, or at least he has the woman face that he's wearing. No problem. Everybody loves it, but in this one, everybody's like, "What is going on here?
Well, I
Why
think
is he dressed like that?"
it's the way that it's just basically, I think it's the face. Okay, so the original Leatherface is genuinely creepy to look at. It's disturbing. It's gross. This one, it just looks like the face is kind of off center, but it's like
Yeah.
it looks comically grotesque, if it makes sense, it
Yeah, I
almost
mean, yeah,
feels,
he's got the whole chest too.
yeah, exactly. And it just feels like, and it's more like the behavior just felt like, oh, like, like the vaudeville-esque,
He
the
screams a lot
vaudeville
in this
guy.
one, which
Yeah.
I like the screaming. Honestly, I
Yeah.
actually like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that like
Sorry,
I
my
guess was
cat
it
is
over the
talking in
top?
here. Yes,
uh,
sorry.
would you say that it was like over the top, or do you think that the people complaining about it are like? Do you think that they're right to complain about it, or do you think it's they're making too much of a big deal about nothing?
About the whole movie, or just
Well,
like
no, just
Leatherface?
Leatherface, just the in drag, basically.
I was a little bit torn. I mean, it's a good question. I think it is a little over the top, mostly because it feels to me, if it would have been done slightly differently, it would have been creepier. Like, well,
Hmm.
now it just seems like, it just feels like, when you're tired of working on a project, like, or doing something, and like you just want to be done with it, and like you just slap everything together, and it's like, okay, let's,
Okay.
like, that's it, let's go. It kind of felt like this was it, like, and that to me, it just feels like the rest of it. I mean, it's not the fact that like, Leatherface is dressed like a woman that's bothersome. It's just the way it's applied, like, to me, it just made me laugh, and I figured this is not the point. Like, that's what I thought. It's like, I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
it's meant to make me laugh. I think it's meant to be
that's a very
creepy.
good point. Yeah.
And because I
See,
mean,
that's why I enjoy it, is because I am laughing at it. Again,
yeah.
that's
There
my
you
show.
go. No, but I think it's not. I'd say it's like it's. I'm a little bit on the line. I'm on the fence. There's a way they could have made it creepier, because I think it's not. It wasn't the intention, but it's like, at the same time, at some point, when we get to the close up of the lipstick, I'm like, are we in a comedy now? Like, are
Yeah.
we veering into satire territory? Because this is what it's starting to feel like. And I mean, it's one thing when you kind of catch a glimpse of Leatherface throughout, but then by the end
Mhm.
of it, you see full on how badly made it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so maybe don't shoot this in daylight. Maybe just like don't shoot it like dead on close up in the face, and like the little sound that he makes. And I'm all like, okay, this is like, it's fucking hilarious. It's no longer scary,
Mm,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess that's a good answer. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who hate on that just because he's just like no other reason than he's just like a
Yeah.
woman. But I guess that sheds some more light into it that I didn't really think about, because
Mhm.
I'm more watching it from the comedic standpoint. So
Yeah.
I'm like I'm eating it up. It's Leatherface. He's crazy.
Yeah.
He just does what he does, and
Yeah.
I accept it.
So that's good.
There's
That's
no
a very
reason
good
behind
reading.
it. He's just a wacky character.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good reading as well, so yeah.
yeah, a lot of the movies on this show that I cover, or my old podcast, Maybe So Bad They're Good, is just a lot of them. Like, the answer to any question you might have is just, who cares?
Also, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But okay, so what else do you think is bad about why it gets such a bad rap? Um, what one thing I heard is that Leatherface they don't utilize Leatherface as much as
No,
a
well,
lot of the
that's
other
it.
movies.
It's very interesting, because to me it seems like it almost feels, and I think, I think also coming back on the whole discussion about Leatherface, I think that's one point that kind of bothers me with it, is it feels like Leatherface is just an afterthought, or they just put in there so that it fits within the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it could have been like, remove Leatherface.
It could be
It could
its
have
own
been an
movie.
entirely different movie. That would have been really interesting. And I think, see, again, I think this is what it is. I think that now I can't think of any on the top of my head, but there are some movies that are part of a sort of different franchises that, as a standalone, they would be very interesting.
Yeah,
But they
yeah,
do not respect the
like
code.
Halloween 3 or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. They don't respect the code of the franchise, and they're hated on because they don't do what people expect these movies to do. Take that exact same movie, remove Leatherface, remove the Texas Chainsaw Massacre wraparound, which has really not, it's really just an afterthought. Like, you get a blurb at the beginning, you get this silly cameo at the end, like just to kind of try it back, to the thing. And then, like, you get Leatherface, but even then it's not really the same Leatherface, or like, at least like
the family is completely different too.
Exactly. So
Like,
it's like,
yeah,
just
and
make it about these crazy people, like in the Illuminati.
yeah, I completely agree with that. They probably that's probably what actually happened. They probably had the script, and they're like, they probably couldn't get it licensed, or nobody would touch it. Because it was probably, people were probably like, this sounds just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I have an idea. Slap the name Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Change one of the characters' names to Leatherface. It probably was originally in the script a woman or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're like, aha. And they're like, oh, well, now this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's make money off of it.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened. Which movie that I covered a few weeks ago, Troll 2. Have you seen that one? Very classic, so bad it's good, cult following. That's what happened. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's why they call it Troll 2, because it has nothing to do with Troll 1. Like,
Really?
Troll 1 is nothing to do with
Yeah.
it. There's not even any trolls in Troll 2. They're goblins. They were originally going to call the movie Goblins. And then they were like, no, we'll actually make more money if we call it Troll 2.
Oh, wow. That explains so much.
Right? Yeah, it has nothing to do with the first movie, which is, that's what makes it even so much more so bad it's good.
Yeah.
It's that movie's great.
I feel there was a few movies in the 90s that came out. That's probably what happened. They were just kind of slapped on as part of something, and then let's just shoot this one scene, and that's the only thing that connects it to it. So,
what? I mean, we already brought up a few other things. What did you like about this movie?
Well, I really like the family. I like the really fucked up characters, I really,
for sure. And they're a little bit more grounded and realistic than the previous movies too. Like,
exactly. And it's
the
just
first and second one, sorry to interrupt. The first and second one were that they were really goofy, especially the second one. They were like cartoon characters, which I love. But this one, they're more grounded, they're more realistic. It's like, it's pretty frightening, because it's like, you can kind of, that this kind of thing goes on. Like, there's houses behind closed doors that, like, there's family members that you're supposed to trust, but they actually get real abusive, and like, you see them fighting each other. It's terrifying that way too, because it's unfortunately pretty realistic and relatable to some people.
Exactly. And I mean, I like you get these like super mundane situation, like fuck, I forgot her name, but the lady, like, from the family, she goes to like pick up pizza, like, she's at the drive-thru. It's a silly scene, but like, that to me just gives so much. It makes so much more interesting characters than just having the super villain of, like, the kind of, like,
for sure,
the typical, like, Michael Myers of on this doesn't say a word. You don't know anything about his personality. Like, he's just like a menacing, looming presence, where it's like, no, these characters, they have full on personality, and like, there's that, like, it's just like it's a series of like bunker situation one after another. Like, you
Yeah.
know, that weird thing where like, you know, the kind of weird violent foreplay between her and Matthew McConaughey when they like fight and like, you know, and then she's like, oh, come eat the pizza, it's gonna get cold. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is just like, but these characters like this, it's like it's ridiculous, but it's like, I don't know, there's something chilling about that. There's something chilling about, because you've seen that, do you see that they're completely insane, you know? So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Also, I think part of me, maybe I've seen too many horror movies, so now it's like when I get something totally different and that doesn't make sense, I'm all like, this is amazing because it's done not like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. That's what I like about it too. It's like a lot of horror movies are all kind of the same. Like even like, I mean, I like Jason and Michael Myers, but they're also just like Leatherface, the silent killers. That's kind of like why I like that Leatherface screams in this one. It's because it's like it's kind of different. There's just this maniac who really enjoys running around with a chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
You just show him just as just a maniac.
Yep,
Just
exactly.
completely unpredictable. And yeah, I guess that's what is really cool about it, is that it's so unpredictable. You never know what anybody's going to do at any certain time.
Yeah. No, that's it. It seems like the film goes from having the first act that's like super predictable, and then you get it, like, you know, you get past the slump of like, you know, moving on into the second act. Then at some point, when you get to that part when they're all there, obviously you got the typical, you know, shots of like, you know, sitting at the table with all of the other like, you know, dead people, and it's like, oh yeah, okay. It almost seems like they had the checklist of the shots from like, you know, the originals and the other films in the series that they had to put in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
To meet the criterias. But once you get all of this stuff out of the way, the rest of it, it's all like, okay, now shit's about to get real. And like it does. And that's the part to me that was the most enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked how every time it looked like one of the characters was going to be saved, or at least safer. It's like the complete opposite of that. It's like, nope. For example, they go to that woman's work, and they're like, don't worry, you're safe now. And then she calls the guy, they come in and tie her up, and then they put her in the trunk, and then she goes to get the pizza, and people are like, we could hear sounds coming from your trunk. And she's like, that's nothing. Like, she even says, oh, that's somebody got tied up, but she's like joking about it. So it's whatever. Like, cops come, and she's just like, the cop is just hitting on her, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And so like every moment that you think that she's gonna be saved or like something's gonna happen, is like, nope. And I like that a lot too. What else? Anything else you liked about it?
Well, I like the the, I guess, creative. Like, I mean, to me, it's like when they were fighting, the type of fighting that was going on. Like, you know, even the part, like, you know, well, the part with the shotgun was kind of like predictable. It's like, okay, yeah, obviously it's not gonna work, you know, because it. But then the thing with the remote control, again, like I'm gonna come back with this, like, you know, using the remote control, the leg, you know, in the fight sequence, is all like, oh my god, this is what they did this. But also, I just thought like the pure brutality of like, he kills one of the girls by stepping on her face, you know, on her head.
Oh yeah, that was and it's focused on his face. Like, you can see him tense up, and
I know
the
that
veins
moment
pop out of his neck, and he's just like struggling to.
I know. I just thought that part was so vicious, and I mean,
that was really well done.
Yeah, that was so well done, and like they had it seems like they had so much of the characters and what like, the character was overdeveloped for like the type of film it was or the space they gave it. Like, just the way he would like cut up his chest, all the time, like after killing someone. And I'm like, oh my God, like I want to know more about this,
I like how when he was doing Renee, just like she's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
She just runs out.
I know. And like, that thing with the Winnebago with the old couple at the end, and I was like, or like the camper, whatever. But it's like, I just thought I was like so like, oh my God, like just having a daylight chase. I was like, just like, you got like these old people in their little camper, and then like, the other crazy with the chainsaw, like, trying to poke it on the side. And the fact that it just like topples over, I was like, okay, this
poor people.
I know. It was like ridiculous, but I think that's what I dug. I dug how ridiculous it got, and it got ridiculous and it ran with it. Like, it just like it purely assumed, like, fully assumed how ridiculous it was getting. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's go ahead on to the next segment, which I on every episode I do on here, we like to throw a prompt, pitch a sequel or prequel, remake, reboot, what have you. So, like, for example, on last week's episode for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, my prompt was to make a sitcom of it. Like, the family all moved to an apartment in New York to get away, and it's literally a sitcom with a laugh track, and they just, like, Leatherface accidentally kills the pizza guy or something, and then his brother's like, "Oh, Leatherface, you done did it again," and a laugh track, and like I think that would be amazing.
Nice, so cool. It's really funny because I thought about it, and it's like mine is similar to yours, but it's a little. There's a subtlety in there. Remember Natural Born Killers? The like I Love Mallory.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I would like do like that. This kind of like bonkers, like this like sitcom from hell. With that with that family. That's it. Just get rid of the kids and everything. Just like have that family dynamic with like the kind of crazy, like, just camera effects, like, with the whole the I Love Mallory treatment, like, the very
with
much
sound
like,
effects and like
the sound effects and the last track, and like everybody's a little bit demonic and like exactly. And just like insane looking. Like I would just totally watch this, like, but also make sure with the Matthew McConaughey character, like you would have to play that role, like, just that cast, just like take that cast from that film as a time capsule, and then just throw them in that like sitcom setting.
Well, I'm sorry, I totally stole your idea right before you said
it's okay, it's all right.
But I mean that just goes to show how good of an idea it is.
There you go. Yes.
I was thinking one a little bit more realistically. So at the end, she gets saved by that limo comes, and it's the Illuminati guy, and he's just like, whole spiritual experience, everything. So she goes off, and so obviously this family, they're being controlled by this guy, so he's disappointed with them. So he takes all of them, and he puts that family into a different place, like a rich house, a mansion, and then they are being punished by these rich, like, millionaires who come at them with a bunch of weapons and stuff, and they have to survive. So it's like reverse Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then the twist at the end is that Renee Zellweger's character is at the top, pretty much. Like, yeah. So I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, that's basically 31 again, but but it's
another riff could be like, but then like that would be mixing up the two franchises. But grab these characters and that rich guy in the limo at the end, and then he shows up being all like, "I have a gift for you," and it's a cube. From Hellraiser, and all of them, like they mess, like they figure it all out. So then you get to have like Leatherface facing off with Pinhead, and I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, For sure,
But
yeah.
I'm mixing two
It's
beloved
always
franchises.
it's always fun to mix franchises together, like Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like
But I could
that.
totally see this also take a turn with like 50 Shades of Grey type territory, like with that guy in the limo, but then it's not. It's a little bit nastier than 50 Shades of Grey, or like yeah.
All right, nice. Okay, cool. Do you have any other ideas?
No, I think I've exhausted everything
Okay.
for a Thursday evening.
Right.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess let's go ahead and rate it. So the way I rate it on this show is just based on your personal enjoyment. Like
Mhm.
even though a lot of movies I cover on here are very low budget, really bad quality production and acting and all of that, but we usually tend to really enjoy them a lot and love them. So the rating's usually quite high. So however you personally enjoyed it, and then something that sticks out. So like me, I like I mean, it definitely wasn't the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it definitely wasn't the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's very underrated. I enjoyed it. I would say it probably goes like the first one, then the second one, then I would say probably this one. It could be better. Definitely could be worse. So I would probably give it. I'd say 7 masks made out of dead people.
Nice. I'd say I'm rating mine out of 5, so it's gonna be easier to do.
Okay.
I know. I mean, to me, it's easier. I don't know. I always find it easier to rate out of 5 than out of 10. I found it thoroughly enjoyable. I think I like I said, I remember seeing that movie and really not really
Mhm.
personally liking it all that much, or even wanting to revisit it when I initially saw it. And then like I rewatched it today. I'm like, okay, so I'll rewatched it, and I was like happily surprised, because I mean it's got camp, like but that's the thing. And I think, again, just circling back to what we were saying earlier, I think a lot of people hate it because a lot of people, they take their horror seriously, and they want to have something that's like serious, and like that's like trying to be scary. I think this one, at some point, it knows it's not going to be scary, so it just kind of goes over the top, and I'm there for that, because
Yeah,
that's the kind of
absolutely.
stuff that I enjoy. So for pure enjoyment and camp factor, like, I mean, again, it's not a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's definitely something like, I'd get drunk and like watch again. So I will rate it 3 embarrassing career choices out of 5. So that's probably how Renee and Matthew feel about this. And that seems to be like the most appropriate rating system for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. Well, this was a little bit shorter of an episode than usual, but we're also missing people. I usually have like up to like 5 or 6 people on the show. So yeah, so we wrapped this up pretty quickly. But
No problem.
yeah, that's fine. I'm sure that the House of Thousand Corpses one will be much longer.
Yes.
This was just kind of a simple slasher movie.
But it was
Um,
fun though.
oh, absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
really fun, like I said, when you dive into the whole history of it. And like I'm just like, now I really want to kind of like go and dive out more of that, like,
Mhm.
into this, because yeah, it really feels like it really feels like like it feels like there's a whole history there in terms of like how it even got made and why it even looks the way it looks, and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is like definitely a pointless movie for sure in that franchise. But
Yeah.
I mean it's fun. That's like I enjoyed it. I'll enjoy it again at another time. But yeah, so that'll do it. So I I usually show a clip to the next one, which I did last episode when I thought that this episode was going to be it, but I'll do it again.
Mhm.
Here's
Why,
one.
you ask? Why is not the question. How? Now, that is a question worth examining. How could I, being born of such conventional stock, arrive a leader of the rebellion.
I really like the cinematography in this movie.
Yeah. See, okay, again, I'm gonna keep a lot of it for then, but I did not remember there was so many stylistic camera choices and directorial choices, and so much of it reminded me actually of Natural Born Killers. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, me too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I took some notes into this, and again, I mean, we can go more in depth into this, but I feel like the overly stylized, like, you know, director's vision is also probably one of the things that people didn't like, you know, because I have a
Yeah.
feeling that people, they have an expectation that it should be like what horror should be like and how it should be presented. But I don't know, this felt so much like you could feel the music video.
Well,
In
yeah,
the
because
background.
Rob Zombie definitely started out with music
Yeah.
videos,
Yeah,
and
but it's like there's a texture to it's interesting, and it feels like many things, and we can go more you know, in depth like next week. But it feels like it's a kind of movie that came out too early. Like, you know, it feels like if that movie came out now, I think audiences maybe would, or maybe not now, but maybe like 5 years ago, there would have been an audience there to enjoy it a bit more than when it came out, you know?
that's interesting.
I don't know. There's some films
Well,
like that
instead
that
we
I
got 3 from Hell,
yeah. I'm not.
which
And you know,
we'll spend some time talking about that one. We'll actually do the full trilogy.
yeah, it's actually
Spend
very interesting because, you know, I stopped watching Rob Zombie movies after Halloween 2,
Oh
so
yeah.
that tells
Well,
you the catching up I have to do. So yeah,
I thought 31 was actually pretty good. I mean 31 is definitely very niche,
yeah.
and the fact that it's very grindhousey,
Mhm.
very it's basically just it's very campy, and it's so just bloody, like
Mhm.
gory, like it's just so much blood and just
Mhm.
really over the top. It's kind of like Kill Bill in a way with all the blood use,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's definitely very niche, so it's
Yeah.
not definitely not for everybody, but
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Cool.
And but 3 from Hell was unfortunate. It was
Yeah.
unfortunate that because Sid Haig died during it,
Oh yeah.
so they had to change the script and everything. But we'll get
Mhm.
into that. But what I definitely love about that clip we just played, I liked uh, Otis's monologue.
Yeah.
I think the Bill Moseley is a very
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, he's a great actor, especially in that movie. And also, we were talking about cinematography. Like I said, you should check out Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
Yeah, I
The
will definitely.
cinematography was
Yeah.
very similar, like those very intense, like red lights, and
Mhm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyways,
I have the feeling that Rob Zombie really loves cinema,
no,
kind of like
absolutely,
Tarantino in a way, you know, and he
yeah.
really loves it, and like he shows his homage. It's just like his approach is obviously a little bit more nuanced than Tarantino, which tends to be very in your face, you know, and very like cut and paste, you know, essentially. But yeah, I think some people are just not ready for that level of like stylistic treatment, you know, the same way
Yeah,
that people responded very badly to Natural Born Killers when it came out, you know,
yeah.
for the exact same reason. A lot of people are like, what is this? Like, it's a chaos, but it's like that to me is what makes a film interesting. Like, you
Hmm.
know, it's that other texture, that layers, like, you know.
So you're more into like the visuals.
I'm really into visual.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
me too.
into everything, but when the visual like is there, you know, there's just
Mhm.
so much. Like, you know, it seems like that's a whole other layer, you know. It's yeah. I
Yeah,
think to me, yeah.
I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm a sucker for good cinematography
Yeah.
and a really good color palette, and I say that a lot on the show. And actually, a friend of mine who comes on the show a lot, Johnny, we actually fight a lot about that. He appreciates good cinematography and visuals and stuff, but he's more interested in the script, which I too am.
Mhm.
I hate a bad script,
Yeah,
but
same.
if it has really good visuals or cinematography, I'll take that over. Like it for me, it excuses a bad script, which a lot of people hate about Rob Zombie films, is that the scripts are usually pretty trash.
It's like again, I think it depends. Like they're not great scripts, but like a lot of the times, like I mean, for example, House of a Thousand Corpses. Again, that's why it's like it was such a great double bill with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, because it's like there's so much campy in it as well. Like and I think, and it's actually very funny because I mean, I always love whenever I watch a film, even if I've already seen it, just go online and read read some of the top results, like just random, like absorb what's the thing that pop up when you look it up. And the first thing that popped up for House of a Thousand Corpses, they say it's a dark like a horror comedy, and I'm all like,
yeah, it kind of is.
I get it, and I think that's it again, and I think a lot of it comes to like the tone being misunderstood, and again to circle back to the one that we just talked, I think it was maybe never meant to be taken seriously. Maybe it was meant,
definitely. It like I
yeah,
said, well. Yeah, I think I said this earlier. It's a tribute to movies like this one that we're covering today with the Texas
yeah,
Chainsaw
exactly,
Massacre and Hills Have Eyes. And it's like an homage to that. He probably didn't even like expect to do another movie after that. He was just like,
no,
I
exactly,
just want to pay my tribute to
yeah,
what I grew up watching and loving, and he did that. And then his next movie, Devil's Rejects, was taken way more seriously.
yeah, definitely. That's what I thought was interesting, just kind of go from like, and that's what I thought was fascinating at first in his film career, because it just went from such clear-cut genres. Like, I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses is so clearly Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all of these, like, trope, like, from that era. And then Devil's Reject is something entirely different. And then Lords of Salem is something completely different, referring back to a whole other era of filmmaking. Like, and it's like, it was just like so clear cut. And I just think, oh, this is interesting there. Like, he's like, it's someone who loves film and is having fun making the stuff, like those, like paying homage to all the stuff that he likes.
It's he's basically like he makes these movies for himself, basically, which Tarantino likes to do as well. But I don't know, I guess Tarantino is just better at it. But also, people just don't take Rob Zombie seriously because he's Rob Zombie.
Exactly. I think that's it, so.
Like, yeah, because he legally changed his last name to Zombie.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So, like right off the bat, people just don't take him seriously. But yeah, so we'll get more into it in that episode.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you for joining. This was
thank you for inviting me. That was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so everybody check out Maude and Allie and Let's Scream podcast. And absolutely. Yeah. That's all I got. Anything else you want to plug? Just anything at all you got going on?
Not at the moment, unfortunately. Everything I have going on, there's nothing confirmed, and everything is pending the COVID situation and whether I can, like, I can, like, for example, I was supposed to shoot a short film in December, and like we've pushed the dates three times so far. So I'm all like, I'm just not talking about it anymore. It's like it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. So
right on.
Yeah. So yeah. So right now I'm just having fun rewatching movies, participating in podcasts like that. Just keeping.
I mean that's definitely fun. Like I'm definitely enjoying that.
Yep.
But yeah, that'll do this episode called Trash Horror Movie Grind. Check out next episode, House 1,000 Corpses, and yeah, we'll see you all next time.